2020 ENDSARS campaign. Efforts to ban the SARS unit increased in October 2020 after a SARS police officer shot a young Nigerian man in front of the Wetland Hotel in Ughelli, Delta State.
In front of
Wetland
Hotel. See the Lexus. Now the bike get this Lexus. When they see her, see them, they don't kill the bike, they road. See them.
Video of the incident started trending on social media, leading to nationwide protests within a few days. The protests quickly expanded from an online hashtag to widespread street protests in a matter of days. Popular Nigerian Twitter influencers Renew, @Savvy_Renew, FK, @Fkabudu, Kelvin Odens, @MrOdens, Dr. Dipo Awojide, @Okbini Dipo, and several others quickly joined in raising awareness of the protests, further giving ENDSARS protesters added weight and support. Within hours after these influencers drew media attention, Nigerian celebrities joined in. Notable ones such as music producer Don Jazzy, singers Runtown, Falls, Wizkid, and Davido, actress Sally Suleiman, comedians Mr. Macaroni and Sydney Talker, and others who used their influence to demand for the federal government to end SARS and implement police reforms across the country. Peaceful end SARS protesters in Abuja, the nation's capital, were attacked, beaten, and chased away by federal police officers, but protesters returned as they took the protests to the police force headquarters. Several reports on international news outlets including BBC Africa and Al Jazeera showed federal police tear-gassing protesters, shooting live ammunition, and using water cannons on them.
Shoot!
Let them shoot.
No problem! No problem!
Everyone sit down.
On October 9 in Ogbomoso in Oyo State, a peaceful protester named Jimma Isiaq was shot dead by police officers while engaging in the ENDSARS protests. His death at the hands of police officers further increased the anger nationwide as he became a martyr for protesters. Several hashtags including #EndPoliceBrutality and #RememberJimma are trended on Twitter. On October 10, a police station in Ijebu-Ode, southwestern Nigeria, was attacked by protesters angry over the death of Jimma Isiaq and several others who had died at the hands of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Meanwhile, in Lagos, protesters marched to the Lagos State House of Assembly to demand an end to SARS. Several videos shared on social media showed protesters sleeping on the bare ground with no bed or mat overnight as they camped in front of the House of Assembly in Ikeja. The next morning, an emergency session of the Lagos House of Assembly was held as lawmakers allowed some protesters into the building to observe proceedings. A motion was passed and agreed on by legislators who voted in favor of the protesters to end SARS and sent the recommendations of the House to the federal government. On October 11, the Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu announced the disbanding of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, on live television and said a new tactical team will be unveiled shortly. However, protests went on as Nigerians believed the announcement was just audio talk, which is a Nigerian slang used to describe something that is said but not implemented. The new hashtags EndSWAT and #SARS must end went international as protesters called for the new unit to be scrapped as they thought several members of the defunct SARS will be reintegrated into the new unit. Back in southern Nigeria, the Rivers state government unconstitutionally placed a ban on all forms of protests in the oil-rich state, asking police to arrest any defaulters. However, on October 13, protesters marched in defiance of the ban, all the way up to the state government house, where the governor resides. It became one of the protest's most talked about events as Port Harcourt protesters marched in solidarity, some of them naked while singing songs against the police unit SARS. In Kaduna, northern Nigeria, protesters marched asking for an end to police brutality and disbandment of SARS. In Abeokuta, Ogun State, and Benin City, Edo State, thousands of Nigerian youths marched in solidarity asking the government to end police brutality. In Benin City, police tear-gassed protesters and arrested some, placing charges of treason and attempted murder on them. However, according to reports on Twitter and media websites, they were later released after the Attorney General of the state asked the police commissioner to let them go, although arrested protesters were asked to come with a surety to sign on their behalf before they would be released. The ENDSARS protests were largely decentralized with no actual leaders, although there were protest organizers in several cities. However, these organizers claim they are not leaders and should be referred to as just protesters. Protest organizers created WhatsApp groups, fundraised, and supplied protesters on the ground with food, medicine, and other supplies. Legal services were acquired and doctors were deployed on ground to administer first aid to protesters. Protesters had access to ambulance services obtained with funds donated by people in Nigeria and abroad, and lawyers went from city to city providing arrested protesters with representation and facilitating bails. Back in Abuja, as the protests gained more momentum and exposure, protesters returned in the thousands to the police headquarters and once again were shot at with water cannons and live ammunition. Popular Twitter activist Aisha Yesufa was reportedly beaten by male police officers, and her car was damaged by police trucks chasing protesters in the streets of Abuja. Politicians and top government officials kept mute, including presidential hopeful Bola Tinubu in Lagos, as police officers in Surulere shot and killed several protesters, all of whom were participating in peaceful protests. Several young people were injured and their cars damaged, while others were brutalized by police officers in police stations. In total, 8 people including a 10-year-old boy were killed in Ogbomosho, Oyo State, by police bullets, while at least 3 were shot dead in Lagos, including an auto mechanic who wasn't part of the protests but was killed by a SARS officer in Lagos and died with his hands in his pockets. On October 16, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey unveiled for the first time since the protests started, a new ENDSARS emoji on the social networking platform that carries the colors of the Nigerian flag, whenever the hashtag ENDSARS is added to any tweet, as a sign of support for Nigerian protesters. On the same day, after a week and a half of widespread national protests, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo in a series of Twitter posts told Nigerians he chaired a meeting of 36 state governors and the Minister of the FCT to set up judicial panels of inquiry, so we can see justice served, and fast. His latest statements come as protesters still occupy streets and remain defiant until their demands are implemented. The Nigerian Army on October 20 announced the introduction of Operation Crocodile Smile VI, which expands to include cyber warfare exercise, track, and counter of negative comments on social media across the country. A move many see to be targeted at ENDSARS protesters. In the Lekki shooting on the night of October 20, 2020, Nigerian armed forces shot at ENDSARS protesters at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos, Nigeria. The amount of casualties is disputed, with witnesses and Amnesty International saying several people were shot dead, while Nigerian authorities claim there were no fatalities but that 25 people were wounded.
Everybody kneel down, go on your knees and be waving your flag. We did that. They don't care. That's why they shoot. I sure say somebody don't die in my front, like in my front. And why me get up, just escape there? I don't know how I got to where I am right now, but I just had to stand back and what, and let you guys know, because some of you are online. You know they feel come aside. But you know what? You go stay online. But we go fire those of una go be safe. When I see the leaders, they can't read 1 or 2 things. When I go begin to say they try, say that particular one they try. We go fire una, fire the leader join. Because right now they read different things online, and offline they are doing different things entirely. They're just out to kill people like, come on. I go back there, no worry. For those of you saying that don't go there, be safe. Yeah, you too be safe. But this country has to be fixed. But in the process, lives are going to be lost. But we go fix this country. So guys, I'll see you at the battleground.
Look at. Please, is there a way? Please, is there a way we can get water? Just stretch. The water is there for this girl. She's gonna have a panic attack. She's struck out. She's struck out. Give me the water. Give me the water now. Yeah. Did I shoot her? What happened? Wait, give her water. Give her water.
That's all there is for today. Remember to like, share, comment and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Stay safe and see you in our next video.